The morning sun rose over Nova Prime like it did every other day. The colony world was beautiful. Green forests covered the mountains. Blue oceans stretched across half the planet. 8 million humans called this place home. They had built cities, schools, and hospitals. Children played in parks. Families ate breakfast together. Nobody knew that in less than 1 hour, everything would change forever. Admiral Tay stood on the bridge of the starship Dawn of Earth. He was 42 years old with gray hair at his temples and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. His ship floated in orbit above Nova Prime. He was here to visit his younger sister, Hannah. She was a teacher at the colony's biggest school. He had not seen her in 3 years. War kept him busy. Always another mission. Always another enemy. But today was different. Today, he had time. He looked at the planet below and smiled. "Beautiful," he said softly. His second officer, a young woman named Yuna, walked up beside him. "Sir, we are receiving a strange signal from deep space." Tay turned to look at her. "What kind of signal?" "Unknown, sir. It is very powerful. Coming from the outer rim of this system." Before Tay could respond, the ship's alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed across the bridge. Officers ran to their stations. Tay felt his heart go cold. "Report!" he shouted. Yuna's face went pale as she read her screen. "Sir, multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace. Hundreds of them. No, thousands." Tay ran to the main window and looked out. His blood turned to ice. The sky was filled with ships. They were massive, each one bigger than any human vessel. Their hulls were black like death itself. Strange symbols glowed on their surfaces. "The Vorn," Tay whispered. The Vorn Empire was the most powerful force in the galaxy. They controlled over 1,000 star systems. They believed that only the strong had the right to exist. For centuries, they had destroyed weaker species without mercy. Humanity had heard stories about them but had never made contact. Until now. "Sir, they are targeting the planet," Yuna screamed. Tay grabbed the communication device. "All ships, defensive formation. Protect Nova Prime at all costs." But it was hopeless. The Dawn of Earth was the only military ship in orbit. The other vessels were cargo ships and passenger transports. They had no weapons, no shields, no chance. The Vorn fleet opened fire. Beams of purple energy shot down from the sky. They hit the cities first. Buildings exploded into dust. Streets melted into rivers of fire. People ran and screamed, but there was nowhere to hide. The weapons were too powerful. Too fast. Too many. Tay watched in horror as the capital city disappeared in a ball of flame. His hands shook, his eyes burned with tears. "Hannah," he whispered. "No. No. No. No." He grabbed the controls himself and flew the Dawn of Earth toward the enemy fleet. "Fire everything!" he ordered. The ship's weapons hit the nearest Vorn vessel. The shots bounced off the enemy shields like rain off a window. The Vorn did not even bother to shoot back. They just continued their attack on the planet. In 30 minutes, it was over. Nova Prime was dead. The forests were ash. The oceans boiled away. The cities were craters. 8 million people were gone. Men, women, children, families who were eating breakfast just an hour ago. Gone. All of them. Gone. Tay fell to his knees on the bridge. He could not breathe. He could not think. His sister. Her students. Everyone. A message appeared on the main screen. A Vorn commander looked down at him. The alien had gray skin and 4 black eyes. Its mouth was full of sharp teeth. It spoke in a cold voice. "Humans of Earth, this is your only warning. You have expanded too far. You have built too many colonies. You have grown too confident. This ends now. Submit to the Vorn Empire. Give us your worlds. Give us your technology. Give us your obedience. Or we will do to Earth what we did to this colony. You have 1 standard month to respond." The screen went dark. Tay stared at nothing. His mind was broken. His heart was dead. All around him, his officers cried. Some screamed. Some just sat in silence. Yuna put her hand on his shoulder. "Sir, what do we do?" Tay did not answer for a long time. Then, slowly, he stood up. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself to stand straight. He wiped the tears from his face. When he spoke, his voice was different. It was cold, hard, like steel. "We go home," he said. "We go home and we tell them what happened here." "And then?" Yuna asked. Tay looked at the dead planet one last time. He thought of Hana. He thought of her smile. He thought of the way she laughed. He thought of all the things they would never do together. "And then," he said slowly, "we make them pay. We make them pay for every life they took today. We make them understand that they chose the wrong enemy." The dawn of Earth turned away from Nova Prime and jumped into hyperspace. Behind them, the Vorn fleet celebrated their easy victory. They laughed at the weak humans. They mocked their tiny ships and soft hearts. They thought the war was already won. They were wrong. Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. Every human colony heard what happened. Every Earth ship received the message. 8 million dead. 1 month to surrender. The Vorn thought humanity would fall to its knees and beg for mercy, but they did not understand humans. They did not know what happens when you hurt a human's family. They did not know the fire that burns inside a human heart. They did not know that sometimes, the quiet ones are the most dangerous. On Earth, the government met in emergency session. Military leaders gathered from every corner of human space. Scientists pulled out files that had been locked away for decades, files marked "Last Resort." Files that contained weapons so terrible, no one ever wanted to use them. The Vorn had made a mistake. They thought they were the predators and humans were the prey. They thought this would be easy. They thought wrong. In the darkness of space, humanity began to move. Ships gathered, plans formed. Anger grew, and somewhere in the void, Admiral Tay sat alone in his quarters. He held a picture of Hana in his hands. He looked at her face and made a promise. "They will pay," he whispered. "I swear on your memory. They will pay." The first strike had fallen. The galaxy thought it was the end for humanity, but it was only the beginning. The beginning of something that would shake the stars themselves. The beginning of Earth's revenge. 2 weeks had passed since the death of Nova Prime. The news had spread to every corner of human space. On Earth, flags flew at half-mast. People gathered in the streets and cried together. Candles burned in windows. The names of the dead were read out loud on every news channel. 8 million names. It took days to read them all, but beneath the grief, something else was growing. Something dark and cold. Something dangerous. Commander Yuna stood in the heart of Earth's most secret military base. The facility was buried deep under a mountain in a place with no name on any map. Only a handful of people knew it existed. Even fewer knew what was inside. She walked through long corridors of gray metal. Armed guards stood at every door. Scientists in white coats hurried past her without making eye contact. The air smelled of metal and electricity. Everything felt heavy with secrets. At the end of the corridor, she reached a massive door. It was 3 meters thick and made of material that could survive a nuclear blast. She pressed her hand against the scanner. The door opened slowly. Inside was a room the size of a football field. And in the center of that room sat something that took her breath away. It was a device. A weapon. It looked like a sphere made of black glass. But inside the glass, she could see something moving. Something that looked like a tiny sun. But wrong. It was a sun that gave no light. A sun that seemed to swallow the light around it. Beautiful, isn't it? Yuna turned to see an old man walking toward her. His name was Day. He was 80 years old with white hair and thick glasses. His hands were rough from decades of work. He was the smartest person on Earth, maybe the smartest person who ever lived. "What is it?" Yuna asked. Day smiled. but there was no happiness in his eyes. "We call it the Black Sun device. I created it 40 years ago. Then I begged the government to destroy it. They said no, they locked it away instead. Just in case." "What does it do?" Day was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with sadness. "It kills stars. Point it at a sun, and the sun dies. Not slowly. Not over millions of years. In seconds. The star collapses into nothing. Everything around it, planets, moons, stations, everything dies with it." Yuna felt cold. She understood now. This was not just a weapon. This was the end of everything. This was death on a scale that made the attack on Nova Prime look like nothing. "We cannot use this," she whispered. "I know," Day said. "But they want to." He pointed to a door at the far end of the room. Through the window, Yuna could see Admiral Tay sitting at a table with Earth's top military leaders. They were arguing. Some were shouting, others had their heads in their hands. Yuna walked to the door and entered the meeting room. Admiral Tay looked up when she came in. His face had changed in the past 2 weeks. His eyes were darker now. Harder. The gentle man who smiled at his sister's planet was gone. In his place was something else. Something that scared Yuna. "Commander," Tay said. "Good. Now we can vote." General Park, the oldest soldier in the room, shook his head. "This is madness. We cannot use the Black Sun device. It is against every law of war, every treaty, every moral code." "The Vorn do not follow laws," Tay replied coldly. "They killed 8 million people without warning. Children, babies. They burned them all." "Two wrongs do not make a right," Park said. "This is not about right and wrong anymore," said a woman at the end of the table. Her name was Mi. She was the head of Earth's intelligence service. "This is about survival. The Vorn gave us 1 month. Half of that time is already gone. They have 1,000 star systems. We have 40. They have weapons we cannot match. Ships we cannot defeat. If we fight them the normal way, we will lose. Everyone knows this." The room fell silent. Tay stood up and walked to the window. He looked at the Black Sun device for a long time. "I never wanted this," he said quietly. "I joined the military to protect people. To save lives. Not to do this." He turned back to the table. "But they did not give us a choice. They came to our home. They killed our families. They told us to kneel or die. So now I ask you, what would you do? What would you do if someone killed everyone you loved and then told you to thank them for it?" Nobody answered. "We have the weapon," Tay continued. "We have the ships. What we need now is the will. The will to do something so terrible that no one in the galaxy will ever threaten Earth again. Not the Vorn. Not anyone." General Park's face was gray. "If we do this, we become monsters." "Maybe," Tay said. "But we will be alive, monsters. Our children will be alive. Our species will survive. And the Vorn." He paused. "The Vorn will be a memory." The vote was held in silence. One by one, hands went up. When it was done, the decision was made. The Black Sun device would be used. Yuna felt sick, but she also felt something else. A cold anger that had been growing in her chest since Nova Prime. An anger that wanted justice, or maybe revenge. She was not sure there was a difference anymore. Over the next 2 weeks, Earth prepared for war. But not the kind of war anyone expected. There were no big speeches. No declarations. No warnings to the enemy. Everything happened in silence. Ships gathered at secret locations far from any known routes. Crews were selected from volunteers, people who had lost family on Nova Prime, people who wanted revenge more than they wanted to live. The Black Sun device was loaded onto a specially built vessel called the Final Word. Yuna was given command of the support fleet. 50 ships, each one carrying weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Each crew, knowing they might not come home. The night before they left, Yuna visited Day in his laboratory. The old man was sitting alone, staring at nothing. "Are you coming with us?" she asked. Day shook his head. "No, my work is done. I built the thing. I don't need to watch it work. Do you think we're doing the right thing?" Day looked at her with tired eyes. "There is no right thing anymore. There's only what we're willing to do to survive. The Vorn decided long ago that the strong eat the weak. We're just showing them that humans are not as weak as they thought." Yuna nodded and turned to leave. "Commander," Day called after her. "When it's over, if you survive, don't forget what you were before all this. Don't let the darkness swallow you completely. That's the Vorn's way. Don't let it be ours." Yuna said nothing. She walked out into the night. Above Earth, the fleet was waiting. Hundreds of ships, all running dark, all silent. Admiral Tay stood on the bridge of the dawn of Earth and looked at the stars. "For Hana," he whispered. "For everyone," he gave the order. The fleet jumped into hyperspace, disappearing into the void. Earth went quiet. No signals. No communications. To the rest of the galaxy, it looked like humanity had accepted its fate. It looked like they were preparing to surrender. The Vorn celebrated. They told jokes about the weak humans. They made plans for how to divide Earth's resources. They had no idea what was coming. In the darkness between stars, humanity's revenge was moving closer. Silent, cold, unstoppable. The galaxy would remember this moment forever. The moment when everything changed. The moment when humans stopped being prey and became something else entirely. Something that even the Vorn should have feared. The human fleet moved through hyperspace like ghosts. No signals, no lights, nothing that could give away their position. 200 ships carried the hope and hatred of an entire species. In the center of the formation flew the final word, carrying the Black Sun device in its belly. Captain Sue stood at the front of his ship, the Iron Promise. He was 35 years old with a scar across his left cheek from a battle long ago. His wife and daughter had lived on Nova Prime. Now they were ashes scattered across a dead world. He had not slept properly since the attack. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw their faces. His second officer, a man named Ho, walked up beside him. "Sir, we will drop out of hyperspace in 3 hours. The scouts report that Vorn Prime is heavily defended." "How heavily?" Sue asked. "At least 500 warships, plus orbital stations, plus ground defenses." 500, Sue said quietly. "And we have 200. "Yes, sir." Sue almost smiled. "Almost. Then it will be a fair fight for them." Ho looked confused. "The Vorn think numbers are everything. They think the bigger fleet always wins. They don't understand humans." Sue turned to face his crew. Every person on the bridge was watching him. "We don't fight because we think we can win. We fight because we refuse to lose. There's a difference." Across the fleet, similar conversations were happening. On every ship, captains spoke to their crews. They talked about Nova Prime. They talked about family. They talked about what it meant to be human. On the dawn of Earth, Admiral Tay addressed the entire fleet through a secure channel. "I'm not going to lie to you," he said. "Many of us will not survive this day. The Vorn are powerful. They have been killing species for 1,000 years. They think they know what we are. They think we are soft, weak, easy to break." He paused and let the silence stretch. "They are wrong. Today, we teach them the truth. Today, we show them what happens when you hurt a human's family. When you burn our homes. When you kill our children. Today, the Vorn learn why Earth has survived every war, every disaster, every enemy. Because we don't give up. We don't surrender. We don't kneel." His voice grew harder. "In 1 hour, we will attack the heart of their empire. We will hit them where they feel safe. We will show the entire galaxy that no one, attacks Earth without consequences. For Nova Prime. For 8 million souls. For humanity." The channel closed. Silence filled every ship. Then, slowly, a sound began. It started on one vessel and spread to another. Clapping, then cheering, then shouting. The fleet roared with one voice. In the darkness of space, humanity announced itself. 50 minutes later, the fleet dropped out of hyperspace. In front of them hung Vorn Prime, the heart of the Empire. It was a massive planet, 3 times the size of Earth. Its surface was covered with cities that stretched from pole to pole. 20 billion Vorn lived there. And in orbit above it, 500 warships waited. The Vorn commander, a creature called High Admiral Koth, looked at his screen in shock. He had expected human surrender ships. He had expected messengers begging for mercy. He had not expected this. "What is this?" he growled. "Where did they come from?" His officer stuttered. "We don't know, High Admiral. They appeared without warning. Our sensors didn't detect them until they dropped out of hyperspace." Koth's 4 eyes narrowed. 200 ships against 500? Are they insane? "Perhaps they wish to die with honor, High Admiral." Koth laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Humans have no honor. They are prey animals. Look at them, they probably think this gesture will earn them better surrender terms." He waved his hand. "Destroy them, all of them. Leave no survivors." The Vorn fleet moved forward, their weapons charged with deadly purple light. They were confident. They had done this 1,000 times before. This would be easy. They were wrong. Admiral Tay watched the enemy approach. "All ships, hold formation. Don't fire until they're in optimal range." Commander Yuna checked her console. "Sir, they outnumber us more than 2 to 1. Their ships are larger. Their weapons are stronger." "I know, sir. With respect, this seems impossible." Tay almost smiled. "Humans have been doing impossible things since we discovered fire. Today is no different." He turned to his weapons officer. "On my mark. Activate the disruptors." "Yes, sir." The Vorn fleet came closer. 1,000 kilometers. 500. 200. They were so confident that they didn't even raise their shields to full power. Why waste energy on such weak enemies? "Now," Tay said. Every human ship activated a new weapon at the same time. The disruptors were technology that Day had developed in secret. They sent waves of energy that interfered with shield generators. Against normal enemies, they would only weaken shields by 20%, but the Vorn used a specific type of shield technology. And Day had found its weakness. Every Vorn shield went down. For 3 seconds, the mightiest fleet in the galaxy was completely unprotected. "All ships, fire everything," Tay screamed. 200 human ships unleashed their full weapons at the same moment. Missiles, lasers, railgun rounds, plasma bolts, everything they had flew toward the enemy. The Vorn had never been hit like this. They had never felt this kind of pain. In those 3 seconds, 100 Vorn ships died. By the time their shields came back online, the humans had scattered into smaller groups. They moved between the larger enemy ships, staying close so the Vorn couldn't use their biggest weapons without hitting their own vessels. Captain Sue flew the Iron Promise straight at a Vorn battleship 10 times his size. "Target their weapons arrays," he ordered. "Take out their guns." His ship darted around the enemy like a wasp attacking a bear. Small, fast, deadly. The battleship tried to track them but couldn't keep up. Human reflexes were faster than Vorn computers. Across the battle, similar scenes played out. Human ships used speed and tactics that the Vorn had never seen. They fought like wild animals, no fear, no hesitation, only pure aggression. High Admiral Koth could not believe what he was seeing. His fleet was taking heavy losses. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be easy. "Send reinforcements from the surface," he ordered. "Call every ship in the system." But the humans had planned for this. A second group of human ships appeared behind the planet. They had hidden in the shadow of a moon, waiting. Now they attacked the reinforcements before they could reach the main battle. Commander Yuna led this group. Her ship, the Silent Rage, cut through the enemy formation like a knife. "Don't let them regroup," she shouted. "Keep them scattered." The battle raged for 2 hours. Ships burned and exploded on both sides. The darkness of space filled with fire and death. The Vorn lost 200 ships. The humans lost 90. It was still not enough for victory. But victory was never the goal. Admiral Tay watched the chaos of battle and checked his timer. All ships. Phase 2. Clear a path to the planet. The human fleet changed formation. Instead of fighting everywhere, they concentrated their attack on one section of the Vorn defense. They hit it with everything they had. Ships died, human and Vorn alike, but slowly, a hole opened in the enemy line. And through that hole, the final word moved forward. The Vorn saw it coming. They tried to stop it. But the human fleet protected their precious cargo with their own bodies. Ships threw themselves in front of enemy fire to keep the final word safe. Captain Sue watched his shields fail. His ship was dying. Fire filled the corridors. Half his crew was gone. But he could see the final word passing through the gap they had made. "For my wife," he whispered. "For my daughter." The iron promise exploded, but it had done its job. The path was clear. The final word reached its position directly above Vorn Prime, and then it activated the weapon that would change everything. The final word was not a warship. It had no heavy weapons, no thick armor, no powerful shields. It was built for only one purpose: to carry the Black Sun device to its target. And now, it had arrived. Lieutenant Nari stood at the controls of the final word. She was 26 years old, with short black hair and calm eyes. She had been chosen for this mission because she had nothing left to lose. Her entire family, parents, brothers, grandmother, had lived on Nova Prime. Now they were gone. She looked at the screen, showing Vorn Prime below her. 20 billion lives on that planet. 20 billion creatures who had celebrated when her family burned. 20 billion enemies who thought humans were nothing but prey. Final word: "This is Admiral Tay. Are you in position?" Nari's hand did not shake as she pressed the communication button. "Yes, Admiral. We are ready." Begin the activation sequence. The Black Sun device sat in the heart of the ship. Engineers had spent weeks preparing it. The weapon was simple in concept, but terrible in execution. It would send a signal to the nearest star, in this case, Vorn Prime's 3 suns, and trigger a chain reaction. The stars would collapse, not slowly over billions of years like nature intended. In seconds, Nari entered the first code. The device hummed. The lights on the ship flickered. Outside, the battle continued. The remaining human ships fought desperately to protect the final word. Vorn vessels threw themselves at the small ship, trying to destroy it before it could complete its mission. But for every Vorn that got close, a human ship blocked its path. Commander Yuna's voice came over the radio. "Final word: you have 3 minutes. We can't hold them much longer." "Understood," Nari replied. She entered the second code. The Black Sun device grew brighter. The tiny dark sun inside its glass shell began to spin. Waves of energy pulsed outward. Every sensor in the system detected something strange happening. High Admiral Koth saw the readings and felt fear for the first time in his life. He had commanded fleets for 80 years. He had destroyed 100 species. He had never felt afraid. Until now. "What is that weapon?" he demanded. His science officer's voice trembled. "Unknown, High Admiral. But the energy readings are impossible. It appears to be targeting our suns." "Our suns? That makes no sense. No weapon can affect a star." But even as he spoke, Koth felt a terrible understanding growing in his mind. The humans had not come to win a battle. They had come to destroy everything. They were willing to die, all of them, just to hurt the Vorn. "Stop that ship!" Koth screamed. "All ships, focus fire on the small vessel. Ignore everything else. Destroy it now." But it was too late. Nari entered the third and final code. A small screen appeared in front of her. It showed one word: confirm. She thought of her mother's laugh, her father's cooking, her little brother's smile, her grandmother's stories. All gone, burned away in purple fire while the Vorn laughed. "For Hana," she whispered. Though she had never met Admiral Tay's sister, she was speaking for everyone now. Every human who had died. Every life stolen. Every dream destroyed. She pressed the button. The Black Sun device fired. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the three suns of the Vorn system began to flicker. Their light dimmed. Their color changed from bright yellow to deep orange to angry red. Then they started to collapse. The process took exactly 7 seconds. 7 seconds to destroy 3 stars that had burned for 10 billion years. The massive balls of fire shrank like balloons losing air. They twisted, they screamed with radiation. They died, and when they died, they took everything with them. The first sun's death sent a wave of energy across the system. Every ship in its path, Vorn and human alike, was vaporized instantly. The wave hit Vorn Prime's outer moons and turned them to dust. The second sun's death was worse. Its collapse created a gravity pulse that tore planets apart. Vorn Prime's 2 sister worlds cracked like eggs. Billions more died in seconds. The third sun died last. When it went, it created a black hole that began pulling everything toward it. Ships, debris, asteroids, all fell into the endless darkness. Vorn Prime still existed. The Black Sun device had been programmed to spare it for a few more moments. The planet hung in the darkness, lit only by the fires of the battle above it. 20 billion Vorn looked up at a sky that had held 3 suns for all of history. Now there was only blackness. Admiral Tay stood on the bridge of the dawn of Earth. His ship was badly damaged. Most of his fleet was gone. But he had survived long enough to see this. "All ships," he said quietly. "Withdraw. Mission complete." The remaining human vessels, barely 30, pulled back from the chaos. The Vorn were too shocked to chase them. They simply floated in space, staring at the impossible thing that had just happened. On Vorn Prime, the darkness lasted for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of total black. 3 minutes of terror. Then the gravity pulse reached the planet. It did not explode. There was no dramatic fire or destruction. The planet simply crumbled. It fell apart like sand in a strong wind. Cities that had stood for 1,000,000 years dissolved into nothing. 20 billion lives ended in silence. The Vorn Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. In 7 seconds, its heart stopped beating. High Admiral Koth watched his homeworld die. His ship was damaged and drifting. He could not move. He could not fight. He could only watch. "Impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." But it was not impossible. It had happened. The humans, the weak, soft, prey animal humans, had done something no species had ever dared to do. They had killed stars. They had destroyed a world. They had shown the galaxy what happens when you push them too far. The final word was gone, consumed by the energy it had released. Lieutenant Nari had died at her post, her hand still on the activation button. She had never tried to escape. She had known from the beginning that this was a one-way trip. Admiral Tay's ship limped toward the edge of the system. Around him, the remains of his fleet gathered. They had started with 200 ships. Now they had 29. Thousands of humans had died in the attack, but they had won. If you could call this winning. Commander Yuna approached Tay on the bridge. Her face was pale, her hands shook. "Sir, it's over." "Yes, 20 billion, sir. 20 billion Vorn. Yes. Are we monsters now?" Tay looked out at the darkness where 3 suns used to shine. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Maybe. But we're alive. And they'll never hurt anyone again." Across the galaxy, sensors picked up the energy signature of the Black Sun device. Scientists from 100 species looked at their readings and could not understand what they were seeing. 3 stars had died at the same moment. A planet with 20 billion lives was gone. The center of the greatest empire in history was simply missing. The news spread faster than light itself. Every government, every military, every thinking being in the galaxy learned what had happened. The humans, the small, young, weak humans had just done something that changed everything, and they had done it because someone had hurt their families. The galaxy fell silent. Not in mourning for the Vorn, who had terrorized everyone for 10,000 years, but in fear. Fear of what humanity had become. Fear of what they might do next. The stars themselves seemed to dim as the reality sank in. Earth had answered. And the answer was more terrible than anyone could have imagined. 1 week after the fall of Vorn Prime, the galaxy had not stopped talking about what happened. Every news channel on every world ran the same story. Every government held emergency meetings. Every military commander reviewed their defensive plans. Fear spread from star to star like a disease. The Vorn Empire still existed in a way. They had other worlds, other fleets, other leaders, but the heart was gone. The center was missing. The 12 core worlds that surrounded Vorn Prime had been destroyed when the black hole formed. Hundreds of billions dead. An entire civilization crippled in seconds. And the species responsible? Humanity. A young race that had barely discovered faster than light travel 300 years ago. A species that most of the galaxy had ignored. A small collection of 40 worlds with simple technology and soft bodies. Nobody was ignoring them now. Admiral Tay returned to Earth as a hero. Crowds gathered at every spaceport. People cheered and wept and shouted his name. The 29 ships that survived the attack were met with parades and celebrations, but Tay did not feel like a hero. He sat alone in his quarters on the dawn of Earth, holding the picture of Hana. The room was dark. He had not turned on the lights in days. Commander Yuna knocked on his door. "Sir? The council wants to see you." "I know, sir. They want to give you a medal." Tay laughed, but there was no humor in it. A medal. For killing 20 billion people. Yuna was quiet for a moment. "They killed 8 million of us first. Does that make it right?" "I don't know, sir. I don't know what's right anymore." Tay finally stood up. He looked at himself in the mirror. The man staring back at him looked old, tired, broken. He had won the greatest victory in human history. Why did it feel like a defeat? The Earth Council met in the Great Hall in Geneva. Every leader from every human world was present either in person or through hologram. Admiral Tay walked to the front of the room. The applause was deafening. He waited for it to stop. "I'm not here to receive medals," he said. His voice was quiet, but every person heard him clearly. "I'm here to tell you what comes next." The room fell silent. The Vorn are not finished. They still have hundreds of worlds, thousands of ships, trillions of citizens. We hurt them badly, but we did not destroy them completely. Right now, they are deciding what to do. Attack us, make peace with us, or wait and plan revenge. He paused. But the Vorn are not the only ones watching. Every species in the galaxy saw what we did. They all have the same question. What kind of creature kills stars to win a war? A council member raised her hand. "Admiral, the Vorn attacked us. They killed 8 million people without warning. We defended ourselves." "Yes," Tay agreed. "We did. And now the galaxy knows that defending yourself against humans means risking everything. Every sun, every planet, every life." He shook his head slowly. "We showed them we are not prey. But we may have also shown them we are monsters." Another council member spoke up. "What would you have us do? Apologize? Give back what we took? The Vorn would have destroyed us." "I know. I'm not saying we were wrong. I'm saying there is a price for what we did. A price we haven't paid yet." 3 days later, Earth received a message. It was not from the Vorn. It was from the Galactic Assembly, the Council of Ancient Species that supposedly governed the galaxy. They had never contacted humanity before. They had considered humans too young, too unimportant. Not anymore. The message was simple. Earth is invited to send one representative to address the assembly. Tay went alone. The assembly station was enormous, a ring around a dead star, built by species that had died before humans discovered fire. Inside the central chamber, representatives from 500 species waited. Some were giants, some were tiny, some floated in liquid tanks. Some existed as pure light. All of them looked at the single human walking toward the speaking platform. Tay had never felt so small in his life. But he did not let fear show on his face. He reached the platform and looked up at the ancient beings surrounding him. "You know why I'm here," he said. "You want to judge us. Fine. Judge us. But first, hear our side." A being of pure energy spoke, the leader of the assembly. "Earth, you have committed genocide. You killed 20 billion thinking beings. You destroyed a star system. You violated every law of civilized warfare. The Vorn attacked us without warning," Tay replied. "They killed 8 million innocent people. They told us to surrender or die. We chose neither." The response was disproportionate. Another species said, a creature that looked like a living mountain. "Was it?" Tay asked. "How many species have the Vorn destroyed? How many billions have they killed over 10,000 years? Did anyone stop them? Did this assembly ever punish them?" Silence. "No," Tay continued. "You didn't. Because the Vorn were strong. Because you were afraid of them. So you let them kill. And kill. And kill. But when humans defend themselves, suddenly you care about proportionate response, the energy being flickered. You threaten the stability of the entire galaxy. We didn't start this. We were building colonies, raising families, living in peace. The Vorn came to our worlds and burned them. They gave us 30 days to submit. They thought we were weak." Tay's voice hardened. "They were wrong." He looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces. "We are not monsters. We are survivors. We did what we had to do to protect our people. Any of you would have done the same if you had the courage." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. "I have one more thing to show you. This is a recorded message from Earth's government to every species in this galaxy." He activated the device. His president's face appeared above the platform. "To all who watch this message, humanity wants peace. We have always wanted peace. We did not choose this war. We did not want to use the weapon we used. But we will not apologize for surviving. From this day forward, Earth makes this promise. We will not attack anyone who does not attack us. We will not threaten. We will not conquer. But if anyone harms our people, destroys our homes, kills our families, we will respond. And our response will be remembered for 1,000 years. We asked for peace. Remember what happens when you choose war." The message ended. The assembly chamber was completely silent. 500 species looked at the small human standing alone on the platform. They remembered the images of 3 sons dying. They remembered the darkness that swallowed an empire. They remembered that this species, this young, small, weak species, had done the impossible. And they had done it with fire in their eyes and broken hearts in their chests. No one threatened Earth. No one challenged the human response. The Vorn Empire eventually sent a message to Earth. It was not a threat. It was not a demand. It was simple. We wish to negotiate peace. Admiral Tay sat in his quarters when he received the news. He still held the picture of Hana. He still missed her every day. The pain had not gotten smaller. He had simply learned to carry it. "Did we win?" Yuna asked him. Tay looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, 3 stars were missing from the sky. 3 suns that had burned for billions of years were gone because of him. Because of humanity. "I don't know if anyone won," he said finally. "But I know this. They'll never forget us. They'll never underestimate us. And they'll never, ever, hurt our families again." Yuna nodded slowly. "Then, maybe that's enough. Maybe." The galaxy moved forward. Time passed. Treaties were signed. Borders were drawn. But the memory remained. Every species remembered the day when a young race from a small blue world changed everything. They remembered the silence after the stars died. They remembered what humans were capable of. And they never, ever forgot the lesson. Do not make enemies of Earth. Because when humans love, they love with their whole hearts. And when they fight the same way. The stars themselves are not safe from a human's grief.